Hi everyone, how are you doing? Great to see you again. Welcome to Cherish by Design TV for our Tuesday chat. I'm a little later this evening because I was stayed later with a student who needed my help. So I'm still here. Sorry, I missed the last couple of weeks as well because I'm busy with papers, getting through them. Nearly done on Friday. I've had a break for another couple of weeks and delighted and excited to have you back in here with me and opening up a conversation that I'd love to talk about, which I'm really excited because it's been bubbling up in me in the last couple of weeks, something that I really wanted to share. And somebody asked me today, actually, you know, what do I share and how do I come up with the content? And must it be harder to talk when you're just on your own and you don't have somebody else to speak to? And it's funny because I've been doing this podcasting for the last 4 years nearly, on and off, lots of different topics, talking really, when I look at it, it was really research, because I'm interested in so many different areas, but deepening my understanding of myself really along the journey, as well as understanding human attitudes and behavior, which is fascinating to me. It's just been, that's what branding is really, when it comes down to the psychology of understanding society. How do we influence each other, and how are we influenced, and what really in the last couple of years been what's so important to us? What are the human needs, and how can we meet those needs? And one of those needs is fundamental to our flourishing, which is human relationships. And that is what I always talk about, being, the quality of our life is dependent on, is a reflection of the quality of our relationships. So tonight what I wanted to talk about was, what are the 3 stages of creating a beautiful relationship? Now this topic is really close to my heart because it's really been born out of a deep understanding of relating to people over the last whole of my life, really, but especially in the last number of years when I've been working very intensively with a lot of students, and I build deep, long-lasting relationships. It's amazing because it's really, there's a kind of there's a magic to it, and there is a pattern to it that I've noticed. I take students in September, and I have them for a full academic year, from September to the June. And I've noticed over the years, some years with 100 students, across lots of different modules, but in my core class, which I have for about, I would say, 6 hours a week, which is quite a lot of time to spend with somebody. Because I say to them, at the start, I would say, you'll end up like my daughters by the end of it, and some sons as well, but mainly they're young women, And it's fabulous because actually over the years, it's got to the stage where my daughter is actually the same age. She's in first year of college, our college as well. So, it's amazing how she's caught up with the students, and it's just been so magical in learning how to build relationships and lasting relationships. And now, that seasoned lecturer who knows actually maybe what to expect in that building of the relationship. And there's 3 clear stages that every relationship goes through. And this has been fascinating for me to understand and learning with the students, but understanding my personal life as well. To building relationships with friends and colleagues, and with collaborations, and in romantic life as well. It's fascinating because, wow, I feel that I would say that the best of who we are comes out in that connection, in that building of that sacred relationship that is fundamental to our own evolution. And just wanted to before I kick this off, as a context to why I'm talking about this, is that last week you might have seen on my page that we had a really exciting launch, an online global launch for the 55 Faces book that I'm co-authored with amazing 55 other women across the world, and we all contribute to answering 3 questions. And we each of us have a photo. This me actually photographed in Griffith College for International Women's Day a few years ago, and talking about who we are, what we want to see happening for women, and then what's our future. And I shared, about myself, and then the future of who I am. Did come down to it. Interesting when I look back at it, because I wrote about a year ago, and it's come back to this point again about relationships and building beautiful relationships. I'm just going to read this to you first before I go into the 3 different stages. This might be a little bit longer in this session than normal, but I think it's the most important teaching of my life to the world, because I think if I was to leave anything behind, would be this understanding. So I'll read this to you, and then I'll talk to you about the different stages that I see. So this one says, this is the last paragraph that I've written in the book. So this is the next story I'm writing for myself. In January 2022, I was sent a message. This is the internet, as I call it. My life had 2 halves, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 would be unrecognizable to part 2. Part 1 has now sadly died away. I understand it was to make room for part 2 to grow. I know that I've been chosen to make many major changes in the world. I know much is expected of me. I know I will need every ounce of inner strength and love that was gifted by my beautiful family in part 1. I don't know where I'm headed, but I have a cross marked on my chest to remind me where my treasure lies. My inheritance of pure gold, jewels and diamonds shine brightly from my eyes and glows from my skin. I am truly rich, loved, and fully funded to complete my sacred mission. And then I finish with the poem that I started Declare Republic, Free State of Mind with, which is called The Holy Relationship. From the eye to the tongue to the ear of God, from the ear to the heart to the mind of God. And I rarely use that word, very, very rarely use that word God, because that's a word that is extremely loaded with negativity and different associations. For me, what God represents is what I see in the other person's eyes, who I'm relating to, and that is the pureness of how when we deepen the relationship with ourselves, we can have a beautiful relationship with someone else, and we can call that force in them. And that poem came to me, it was the first poem that ever came to me when it was like a drum. I often talk about it, the drum. I heard this drum beating. This drum was beating. It was like a bowron. I heard the bowron, the call. It was like a warrior's drum beating. And it was in that beat, and they were the words that came. And it was very much like the beating of a drum. And in that beating of the drum, we evolved. And it was actually the beat of the heart of humanity. And that it keeps beating as much as it keeps beating. Keep talking, keep relating to each other. Then eventually that we evolve into this one consciousness that we can realize that we're all part. We're 8 million people with one heart, one mind, and one soul. And that's the truth of who we are. And how we can achieve that is in the art of relating to each other. So when we sit with somebody and we have a conversation and we invest ourselves in the time to get to know that person, then we're getting closer to that. Each one of us takes us closer to that unity. And it's amazing that in sharing this, the three, that there is actually, it sounds very esoterical and very unachievable, but it is so achievable when I have seen it again and again and again and again. When my beautiful students and the beautiful friends and connections that I've made over the last number of years, that it is so possible that we can achieve this beautiful sense of unity within ourselves, because everything and how we're connected to the world always arises within ourselves. So when we're relating to people, to talk about the three steps, I think we're always, you know, enjoy the first stage. So the first stage of building a beautiful relationship with somebody, anyone, it doesn't matter if it's romantic or whether it's platonic, whether it's family, whether it's, a work colleague, whether it's somebody you're studying with, it always starts off with this beautiful blank canvas. We don't know anything about the person. We have a big smile on and we might, excited to meet them. We don't know. And it's just like opening a present. We have no idea who this person is. They don't have any idea who we are. We're fresh. They're fresh to us. We don't have any baggage, So it's beautiful. Blank canvas starting from scratch. And it's a beginning, a new beginning. So it's full of possibility and excitement. And, there's this back and forth, talking about, ourselves and having fun and a bit of a chat. And, sometimes it's hard to actually open up. Some people find that difficult, other people find that, more enjoyable and find it more natural to be able to do that. But when we spend time just, getting to know each other slowly and gradually, that trust can be built. And often the first stage is to really be successful in that first stage is a little bit about vulnerability, being honesty and talking about ourselves and sharing, things that we love, things that we find important to us, like our friends or family or our hobbies or things that are really, define us, I guess, of how we see the world and what we enjoy in the world. So I would say that, energetically speaking, we could look at that as being like our colours, Or I have a workshop called Colour Me Beautiful, and it's very much an energetic feeling when we meet somebody. We can get a sense of the type of colours that they portray in their energy. And, it's like painting a picture there. We start painting these beautiful colours, these gorgeous, rich colours, whether it's reds or whether it's oranges or yellows, or it's whatever shades and tones that they, or it might be blue, it might be something that's clear and calm, or it might be green, very rich and lush and nurturing. And that's a very exciting time, and we're getting to know the surface level of a person. And it's very exciting because when we have new people in our lives, like it does give us a lift, and that's not to say that it enriches our lives, to have found and come across a new relationship with someone is a beautiful occurrence in our life that we can really enjoy. And as time goes on, then we get more comfortable. We feel we know them, we feel that we're kind of got it, when a bit of trust has built up, and we feel that we know them to a certain extent. And then as time moves on and the relationship becomes more normal, and you're used to them in your life, and it's not a novelty anymore, and you become a little bit, complacent, or you're really still excited, but challenges might arise. Something might happen where one of you is triggered, or one of you realizes that in the challenge that you're in together, that they've reacted in a way that was difficult, that maybe wasn't perfect, wasn't just right, wasn't the way that you might have expected, or whether you might have not appreciated, let's say. And I've seen this with the students as well. It's about seeing parts of the unintegrated part of the other person. So you're starting to see their shadows, their darker elements, darker part of the personality, the unintegrated part of them, the part that's maybe been caused by some, difficulty in their life, or trauma, or unhealed aspect of them, or unknown, or unconscious areas in their personality. You're starting to see that, and you're starting to realize, okay, there's areas here that need development, and they start to see that in you too. So when you put them on this pedestal, they start to, you know, become real to you, and that actually the shine and the perfection that you put them into, that beautiful, you know, I suppose I suppose we feel that there was fantasy nearly that we had created minds of who they were. The reality sometimes is a little lot different. And sometimes we can see that, and it's a little bit too difficult. And this is the part that really, the stage two, this part where it gets real. And we start to see the dark side of the personality. We've seen the light and the bright and the beautiful, and then we start to see the darker side, the darker tones. But like in the picture behind me with the lion, that darkness really defines the character of the person. It gives them shape, and it gives them structure of who they are, and it's very much part of them. It's really extremely important to really see that and understand that. And I find this part the most unbelievably profound and deeply spiritual, because when we move in, if any of you have experience, I'm sure you have, and it's so profound that, especially I would say in romantic relationships, I would say I see it in all relationships, but when it comes to romantic relationships, we're really looking in a mirror of ourselves. So the other person is actually showing you the darkness that you have not resolved within yourself. So they're mirroring back to you the part of you that needs healing, the part of you that you don't want to see in yourself. And that is really, really difficult. That is really difficult to take ownership of, because it's something that when we're just at the surface level at stage one, and if you only ever stay at that level with people, you never get to stage three. And it takes a huge investment, and it takes courage, and it takes a deepening of ourselves, and it takes the willingness to transform ourselves to move through that. Because when we start to actually look at the person, take some time and step back from the painting and see that there is light, beautiful colors and gorgeous colors in the painting, and then there's also darkness. We start to appreciate the whole picture. We can see the whole picture for what it is. And there's a beautiful place where when we start to do that, and we start to really look into the darkness, you can see that only through the darkness, the person wouldn't be who they are today. They wouldn't be the person that you love so much. And that there's a new level of compassion that comes in. There's a deep, deep level of compassion that comes into that darkness, and it understands it. It understands it at a very deep level, and it accepts it. And it actually, what blossoms there is that true love, that true deep bond that's connected with that person. That you truly love the dark side of them and the light side of them. And that you know that when something comes up that's from that dark aspect of their life or what's happened with them, that you actually embrace it, that you love it as much as you do the bright and the beautiful and the funny and the jolly and the charismatic. You love it as much as that, because You know that you're here to help heal that, and that is actually a reflection of what something that's within you too. So that the person that you're healing together, you're on that journey and that bond together, that you can evolve yourself through that relationship. And it's so profound because I've experienced it myself in all aspects, you know, in the personal, into the students, in the friends, really colleagues, and you know, people that I know very close to me. That it's always the same, and I just feel that's where the richness comes, because when sometimes we can be frustrated and we feel, oh my God, you know, can't, you know, I just can't do this because it's too much. When you give yourself time to really deepen understanding of a person and where these behaviors are coming from and why they might be like that, you let find this new acceptance, and you can, something in you softens down, and you actually start to take ownership of those areas within yourself. And a healing happens that you become a little bit more whole within yourself. And that's why I call it the holy relationship, that you become more whole through loving the other person in their complexity and in their light and in their dark. So you're actually loving the whole of them. You're not just loving the part that you like. You actually, but what happens is you actually fall in love with the dark side. You love the dark side nearly more than the other, than the bright side, which is really, it's fascinating and it's so beautiful. You know, just for example, today I had a beautiful, you know, meeting with a couple of my students I had last year in a little group. I walked in and I was on my coffee break, and they were huddled in a little group, you know. And I said to her, I came over to them and said, "Hey, hi guys, how are you doing? Give us a group hug." And we kind of went in for a group hug. And this one girl, you know, she and I had a little bit of a tiff in first year, where when I was getting her to change some of her editorial design that we're doing, she just got so frustrated and she was like, "Oh, you know." And then I was like, okay, you know, I had to give them a little lecture about student etiquette and how it was responsible for our actions and actions and all that. And then I came back the next day and I apologized for that, and that hopefully I wasn't too harsh on them, you know, and that I came back to her, we sat down, and she had made the changes that I had asked, and they were amazing. And then she came back to me and said, "Thank you so much for making me see that I could have improved on what I thought was perfect." But you had the wisdom to get the best out of me, and I thank you so much for that. And today it was funny because we met in the coffee shop, and she was the one who actually came straight over to me and wrapped her arms around me and just was so happy, and was just like, "Oh, you know, we miss you so much. We miss you so much, you know." And even when we're going again, she started hugging me again, and I just thought, isn't that beautiful? Like we had the deepest bond because of the fact that we had that fire, you know, that friction in the second stage of the relationship, and that third stage then is when we just that bond is fused. It's like fusion, you know, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. Just two separate things, two separate entities, and you can't actually bond them unless there's heat. You know, it's like metal. You know, you have to put them into heat and have to, you know, to kind of melt them down a little bit, so that they're actually can be bonded. You know, so the heat actually, when you put them together, the heat bonds them together, and you put them into the both, like creating a sword. I talk about swords of truth in the book as well, one of my poems. You know, how do we have a handle and a blade to create the sword? We have to connect them in the fire, and then they become one, and then they're super strong after that. And I do feel any of these relationships that I've had have actually withstood stood that test, that fire. They have just been, and they still are, the strongest relationships in my life, bar none. They really are. And I think it's fascinating to know that, because there's a deep acceptance of who they are as a person, a deep understanding, and a deep respect, this beautiful, deep respect that is forged in that fire. And the fact that one of my greatest learnings in my life was that I have been a pleaser for most of my life. From my early part of my life, I always had great friendships and I loved people so much. But I definitely avoided conflict. I avoided conflicts. I was an avoidant. Um, so we'd get to a certain stage, and when things got really difficult, I would put my feelings, brush them under the carpet. I wouldn't really say, if I wasn't happy about something. And that was the worst thing that I could ever do, because I didn't realize that that was detrimental to the relationships, in the regard that what was happening was with that is that you build up resentment within yourself. So you're not saying anything. So you're not being honest about how you actually feel. So then you build up resentment within yourself. And you are not really, that builds up over time. Builds up and it builds up. And what happens is that can come out then if something, you get triggered by something, then there's always this explosion of all these unresolved resentments that you haven't really spoken about and haven't talked about and haven't had the skills maybe to be able to understand how to do that, because it hasn't been modeled to you in your life. So it's just, it's I would say a skill that needs to be cultivated in ourselves to be able to move through the three stages of relationships building. And but what the magic, it was only a few years ago that I realized this, that what I was missing from actually avoiding conflict was that beautiful bond that is built within that fire. It's just so amazing, that you can say something to somebody, be honest about it, and if they're in the same mindset that they want to grow and that they can receive that in a way, if you say it respectively, of course, and you're saying it with respect, and you're saying it in a loving way, and you're saying it in a way that is respectful to yourself and to the other person, that there can be that peace and reconciliation, that understanding from both sides, and then a little transformation or an understanding can be forged, and then there might be again an apology or something, and then there's that beautiful warm connection that it resolves the issue, but it also brings you closer together. you know it just is this gorgeous warm feeling in your heart, and that's the healing. It's so simple. That part of you who was afraid to say what you wanted to say, that actually, a belief in yourself that you couldn't, that's belief about what was happening in that relationship, when it was aired, when it was voiced, when it was heard, and when it was accepted, that part of your darkness is actually colored beautiful. It's colored into a beautiful color, and it doesn't come up again. It's like a healed trigger then, that doesn't come up again, and then you build more, not just connection and bond, deepness, trust between you in that relationship. It's really beautiful, and it's really magical, and it's really how the best of us. I think it's the best of humanity, and that's what we're here for. We're here to learn how to relate to each other, and we evolve through those relationships. you know So the three stages are, the first stage is the blank canvas, where we're just starting off, getting to know somebody. We're seeing the beautiful colours, all their gifts, their talents, their personality, their charisma, their all the shiny bits, all the colourful bits, all the attractive bits. And then the second stage, we start to see the dark side. We start to see the parts of the pain, the hurt, sometimes the lack of communication, sometimes the lack of empathy, understanding, sometimes the defenses, sometimes the the defensiveness, I would say, and all of that. And then there's a magic in that, a decision in that area, in that stage two, for us to sit back from the painting and to look at it, like the painting behind me, and to see it in its whole, to see that, not just to point out all the different colours and focus on the different colours, and not just focus on the dark elements, but to sit back and to see the picture of that person as a whole, see the wholeness of them, and to really appreciate who they are in their wholeness. And that's when true love is born. And it is when you can truly, really have that gorgeous, beautiful relationship with that other person that lasts a lifetime, you know. And I am so privileged that I get the chance to build those beautiful relationships with my students all the time. And we start from scratch in September and working through, and I'm halfway through the semester now, and I can see the deepening of the relationship. And then I know going into the stage one is nearly finished. So next year, going into September, when things get a bit more difficult, as they will, we'll see the investment in getting to know the person in the beginning is usually what, and the cherishing of that is usually what can get us past stage two. And it takes time, it takes self awareness and emotional intelligence to get us through that second stage into the third stage, which is the golden stage, the stage where you have that beautiful bond, and that's stage three, where we're incorporating the three elements, you know, of ourselves, you know, and we're understanding ourselves as a whole, and that it's not just me and it's not just the other person, but there's the beautiful energy between us, the love between us is the third person in that relationship. It's the connection, the bond, you know, the appreciation and the gratitude for them in your life is what is gained from moving through that second stage. And that is really, the more of those relationships you have in your life, the more your life is rich, you know. And I'm just so lucky that I think my life has taught me that, you know, it's taught me that, it's given me the opportunity to be very close to a lot of humans, you know, human beings, that I had the chance to find that out, you know, and it has actually really helped heal me and understand, you know, my avoidant uh, personality sometimes, you know, that, and how that has really changed now, and that I've really understood the power of not avoiding conflict and to actually embrace it and to see it as, actually now I kind of get, even talking about now, I get excited about the fact that, you know, that conflict is where the bond is, how you get closer. That's how love is created, you know, in that fire, and how you have the strength of the relationship is forged in the heat of the moment. And when you're molded and you're fused together into one, and then you work together as a unit. That there's always that bond. And I feel emotional talking about this because, yeah, like all of my students all across the world, they're all like my children. I love them very much, and they are my inspiration because what they have to go through is so hard. So, and sometimes they just need like a mother's love. So that's my job. There's Rainbow Warriors here. So I would say, please just invest. If you're to invest anything in your life, invest time with people and share your heart. You'll be the one who will end up which woman, being which person because of that. So I'll leave you with that. And yeah, if I was to teach you anything, it's that how to build a beautiful relationship that lasts a lifetime. Okay, I'll I'll talk to you next week, and we'll have getting close to Christmas now, so it's getting really exciting, and I'm looking forward to having a little break myself. We're going to have a little party in the college on Friday with my students. I'm going to have them meet my first years, meet my second years, and get them talking and making friends and support for each other during these difficult times. And yeah, we're going out for another little meal for the lecturers, and yeah, lots of exciting times ahead. So I wish you just soak up the beautiful Christmas cheer, and it's a beautiful time, a time of connection and love and celebration. So just enjoy it, and I'll talk to you next week. God bless. Bye.